Okay, chapter 2.1, this is about two-dimensional coordinate system and its graph. Okay, two-dimensional coordinate system is this one. There's a x-axis and y-axis. X-axis, y and y-axis. Okay, the intersection of these two axes is 0. So starting from this point, okay, let's say x is a number line, horizontal number line. So as you go to the right, it's 1, 2, 3. As you go to the left, then the value will be -1, -2, -3. And y is a vertical number line. So as you go up, then the y value is positive. And as you go down, then the number will be negative values. Okay, so the surface, the plane, this is the paper. Let's say this is two-dimensional paper. So this plane is divided into 4 sections based on this x-axis and y-axis. So the upper right corner is called quadrant 1. Quadrant 1. And as you go to the counterclockwise, then the upper left corner is called quadrant 2. And this is quadrant 3. And the fourth one is quadrant 4. Okay, so the plane is divided into 6 different groups. One is x-axis, y-axis, and there are 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, then the number system. Okay, for each point on the number line, for each point on this plane has a coordinate. One is x value and y value. We write it as x, y, and this is called ordered pair. Ordered pair. So this ordered pair is composed of 2 parts, x coordinate and y coordinate. Okay, x coordinate, and the second value is the y coordinate. Okay. So x coordinate means the point is how many units apart from the center, from the origin. So when here's a point, then as you move it, draw a vertical line. So in order to get to this point, let's say this is point A, then we start from 0 and then move 2 units to the right? So A is 2 units to the right. So 2 units apart from the center. So the x coordinate is 2. And then from this point, you go up 1 unit, right? 1 unit up. So the y value is what? 1, right? 1. So draw bring the point down on the x-axis, then the x value is 2. That means 2 units away from the center. So that's the x coordinate. And y coordinate is bring the point to the y-axis, then it is 1, right? 1. So the vertical distance is 1. So the coordinate, the order pair for this point A is 2 and 1. Okay, how about this one? How about here? This point B. Then the coordinate of the point B is what? This point is -2, right? So in order to get to this one, we will start from the 0, from the origin, go 2 units to the left, go 2 units to the left, and then how many units up? 3 units up, right? So -3, -2, and 3 is the coordinate of this point B. How about this point? So let's say C. Then from the center, we go 3 units to the left, 3 units to the left, and then how many up? This time we go down, right? Go down 2 units. So we will say -2. Okay, how about this one? This point, D. Okay, D is, from the center, the origin, we go 1 unit to the right. So x value is 1, and then 2 units down, so y value is -2. All right. Okay, how about the x-intercept and y-intercept? What do you mean by x-intercept, y-intercept? Okay, if a point is on the x-axis, we call this x-intercept. We call it what? X-intercept. So always x-intercept has the value. The y value is always 0. X-intercept has always the y value is 0. So the x value of this point is 3, right? And how about the y value? Y value is 0. As you go to the left, then it meets 0 on the y-axis, x-intercept. Okay, how about this point? So if there's a point on the left, on the x-axis, then always the y value is 0. Always the y value is 0. Always y is equal to 0. Always. How about this point? The point on the y-axis. Okay, the x-coordinate of this point is always 0, right? Always 0, and the y value is 3. How about this point? Still same thing, right? X is 0, y is -4. So we call this y-intercept. Y-intercept, because this point is on the y-axis. And then this one implies that what? Always which value is 0? X equals 0, always. All right, then two order pairs are same. Okay, let's say two order pairs same. So for example, okay, here is 0.3, and I don't know what the y value is, but this order pair is equal to this one, x and then -2. Okay, this means 2 points are equal. 2 points are equal. So these 2 points are on the same location. So this represents the corresponding coordinates. So the x coordinates are the same and the y coordinates should be the same. So this one implies that x should be equal to 3 and what? And y should be equal to -2. Okay. This one is obvious, right? Obvious. So if 2 points are the same, that means the coordinates are the same. So we set each x coordinate equal to they are equal, and then make the y coordinates are equal. All right, then from this one, let's find out the distance between 2 points. Distance. So this is x-axis, and this one is the y-axis. Okay, let's say here's the one point. Okay, x1, y1. And the second point, this is x2, y2. Then we want to find the distance between these 2 points. Okay, distance is, can we draw a horizontal line and vertical line? Horizontal line and vertical line. And this one will make a right triangle. Do you remember the Pythagorean theorem? Pythagorean theorem, which is a, b, and let's say this is c. Then c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, right? A squared plus b squared. And the distance c, the length of the hypotenuse will be square root of a squared plus b squared. Same thing, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we want to find the distance d between 2 points. Then we need length a and length b. So what is the length a? This is a, this is a, and this is b. So this a is, the x-coordinate of the first point is x1, this is x1, and this point is x2. So the length between these 2 points will be what? x2 minus x1, right? x2 minus x1. How about the length of side b? That will be, okay, the y-coordinate of this first point is y1, and y-coordinate of the second point is what? y2, right? So this distance is equal to y2 minus y1. So we can say that b, right? b equals y2 minus y1, and a equals what? x2 minus x1. So using the Pythagorean theorem, d equals square root of what? A squared plus b squared. Then a squared is equal to the difference between the x coordinates. So x2 minus x1, x coordinate, the difference between the x coordinates squared plus the difference between the y coordinates, so y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, is it okay we switch x2 and x1? That's okay, that's fine, because whenever you square it, it becomes positive number. So x1 minus x2 squared is also okay. So, or you can switch this x2 and x1. So x1 minus x2 is still okay. And then y2 minus y1, like y1 minus y2, y1 minus y2 squared is still okay, because whenever we square it, it becomes positive number. So that's how we can find the distance between 2 points. Okay, then how about the midpoint? Okay, so let me write the distance. Okay, distance, so we can rewrite it. Find the distance between 2 points, right? Points. So that's the formula. So don't forget this one. This is really, really important. That's the formula. How about the distance? How about the midpoint? How do you find the midpoint? The midpoint between 2 points. How do you find the midpoint of 2 points? Okay, first let's try this one. Okay, let me draw x-axis and y-axis again. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Here is point x1, y1. And here's a point x2, y2. Okay, the midpoint. Okay, the midpoint is always in the middle between 2 points. So the midpoint, let's say, is in the middle, right? So this midpoint is also in the middle of 2 x coordinates. So x1, x2. So the midpoint, so this guy is what? Middle of these 2 points. How do you find the middle of these 2 points? That's the average of these 2 points. So x2, so x1 plus x2. So we're going to add. How do you find the average between 2 points? Average between 2 numbers. Add up 2 numbers and divide by 2, right? So that's the midpoint of x coordinate. So this is the average, right? Average of x1 and x2. So that's the midpoint of the x coordinate. Midpoint of the x coordinates. Okay, how about the midpoint of the y coordinate? Still the same thing. This is y1 and this is y2. So the midpoint is what? Right between these 2 numbers. So this will be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So from here, the midpoint is, okay, x coordinate of the midpoint is the average of x values. And the y coordinate is the average of the y coordinate. That's it. Simple. Very simple. Okay, so using this information, let's do some examples. So, okay, example 1. Okay, let's find the midpoint and the length of the line segment connecting these 2 points, point 1 and point 2. So their coordinates are given. We don't have to draw a graph for this one. We just use the midpoint formula. So what the midpoint formula is what? The average of the x coordinate, right? X plus 1, x plus 2. Sorry, x1 plus x2 divided by 2. That's the x coordinate of the midpoint. And the y coordinate is sum of the 2 y coordinates divided by 2, right? So that equals, okay, let's say this is x1, x2. So let's say this is x1, right? y1. And this is x2, y2. So x1 plus x2 is negative 4 plus 4 divided by 2. That's the x coordinate. Y coordinate is the sum of 3 and negative 2 divided by 2. So 0 over 2 is 0. 3 minus 2 is 1, so 1 over 2. So this is the midpoint. Okay, how about the distance? Okay, so the distance between 2 points. The distance between 2 points is what? Square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So let me rewrite it. Plug in the numbers. x2 is 4, so 4 minus negative 4 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Then 4 minus negative 4 is 4 plus 4, isn't it? 4 plus 4 squared plus negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5 squared. Then 16 squared plus 25, right? 25. Wait a second. Okay. So this is, sorry about this one, not 16. 4 squared, right? 4 squared. So 4 squared is 16, right? So this is 8 squared. 8 squared minus 5 squared. So 8 squared is 64 plus 25. So that equals 89, right? 89. So the distance between 2 points is square root of 89 units. 89, we cannot simplify this 89, so leave it as 89. That's it. Okay, next example is to graph an equation. So negative x squared plus y equals 1. Okay, when we graph an equation, that means we're going to find, okay, actually the graph is the collection of all points that makes the equation true. So let's rewrite it. First, rewrite the equation so that y is on the left hand side. So move minus negative x squared to the other side. Then there will be x squared plus 1. Okay, plus x squared each side. So we have this equation. And then the graph is the collection of all the xy values. Whenever x value is given, then we get the y value. So if x equals 0, what happens? If x equals 0, then 0 plus 1 is, the y value is 1. If x equals 1, then what? 1 squared plus 1 is 2, right? If x equals 2, let's try a little bit more. X equals 2, then 2 squared plus 1 is 5. And then if x is, let's make a negative x values. So negative 1, then what? Negative 1 squared plus 1 is 2. If x is negative 2, then what? Negative 2 squared plus 1 is 5. Can you see this one? 5, 5, 2, 2, right? So we have an order pair. The order pair in xy, the order pair is this one. So this one, the x value is negative 2, then y value is 5. X is negative 1, then y is 2. X is 0, then y is 1. Again, x is 1, then y is 2. X is 2, then y is 5. Okay, so let's plot this order pair. Then that's the graph. And then connect these order pairs smoothly. Then there will be the graph. So x-axis, y-axis, x-axis, y-axis. Okay, let's say x equals 0, 1, 2, right? 1, 2. That's 1, 2. And the y value is, okay, when x equals 0, y equals 0. Okay, let's use a different color. So if x equals 0, then y is 0. X equals 1, then y equals 2, right? Y equals 2. And x equals 2, then what is y? 5. 3, 4, 5. Okay, if x equals negative 1, then y is 2. X is negative 2, then y is 5. Okay, so from this one, we will smoothly connect. Then it looks like this. Not smooth, right? So, okay, look at this. This is a quadratic equation, Square. Quadratic means square. So whenever we have x squared, then the graph looks like this. Opens upward like this. And then if y equals negative x squared, then opens downward. Okay, so right end is up if the coefficient is positive. X squared is, the coefficient of x squared is positive, right? So the right end is up, that means opens upward. Opens upward. Okay, if the coefficient is negative, then the right end goes down. So the graph looks, goes down. So opens downward. Opens downward. Okay, so actually the graph, should be smooth, not like this. So when we graph it, just, there will be some parent functions, parent equations. Then in that case, we have to, memorize how the graph look like. But other than that, you can plug in some, x values and y values. So plot some points and then connect smoothly. Okay, I re-graphed example 2. Okay, when x equals 0, y equals 1, x equals 1, then y equals 2, and so on. So the graph looks like this. Okay, the next question is graph of absolute value equation. All right, so let's try when x equals 2 first. If x equals 2, then what happens? Okay, so 2 minus 2, that is 0, right? 0. So if x equals 2, then y is 0. Okay, if x equals 3, what happens? 3 minus 2, absolute value of 3 minus 2 equals 1. So that absolute value of 1 is 1. So when x is 3, y is 1. Okay, let's try a negative number. Okay, not negative. Let's try 1. So absolute value of 1 minus 2 equals negative 1, right? That is equals 1. So the coordinate is when x equals 1, y is 1. Okay, let's try 0. Then 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2, right? So when x equals 0, y is 2. So using this order pair, let's graph it. So draw a horizontal line, which is the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so from here, let's plot it. So when x equals 0, y is 2. X equals 0, y equals 2. And x equals 1, then y is 1. X equals 2, y is 0. X is 3, then y is 1. Okay, let's find another point. When x equals 4, then 4 minus 2 equals 2, right? 4 is 2. When x equals 4, then y is 2. It looks like it's a V shape, right? V shape. It looks like it's a V shape. Now the actually the absolute value means absolute value is always greater than or equal to 0, right? This absolute value is greater than or equal to 0. That means y is greater than or equal to 0. So as you see at this point, the minimum y value of the point is 0, right? 0. So this one is going all the way up, okay? Up. So this is the graph. Or you can try a graphing like this. The absolute value of x minus 2. Then you can graph without the absolute value, graph this one. Now what's the graph of this linear equation? Graph of this linear equation is what? X equals 0, y equals negative 2, right? And the slope is 1, so move 2 up, 2 to the right. So this is the graph of this one, right? Then absolute value means what? Positive, right? This is always positive. So you can reflect the line below the x-axis up. Reflect this line up. Move it up. So this negative 2 goes to number 2, right? So the graph will be this part. And then once you flip this one, then that's going to be like this. So that's the graph. This is the graph. So if I rewrite it, this one, right? This one is reflected across the x-axis. So this one will flip it. So it will go, this black line segment will be going up. So the V shape is the absolute value, graph of absolute value equation. Okay, graph y squared equals x. Okay, do you remember before we do this, x squared is equal to a, then what is x? Positive or minus square root of a, right? So we can rewrite it. Y equals what? Plus or minus square root of x. Okay, this means y equals square root of x, or y equals negative square root of x. So what is the graph of this one? Square root. Okay, we need to understand how to, we gotta know the graph of square root. Okay, y equals square root of x, then the graph is starting from 0, the origin, and y is increasing slowly. It looks like this. And then if y is negative square root of x, then this graph is reflected across the x-axis. Across the x-axis, it's gonna be looks like this. Okay, so when we combine these two graphs, then the graph of this will be what? One is the curve above the x-axis, the other one is going downward like this. Can you see it? This is x-axis, y-axis. So how do we know? Okay, we can set up a table. So x and y. Okay, if x equals 0, then what is, okay, plus or minus square root of x, right? So if x equals 0, then y is 0. If x equals 1, then square root of 1 plus or minus 1, so that is plus or minus 1. So x equals 0, y equals 0, x equals 1, then this will be positive 1, and this will be negative 1, right? Let's use x equals 4. Then plus or minus square root of 4, which is plus or minus 2. So when x equals 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, y equals what? 4. Or y equals 2, right? Positive 2, and this will be negative 2, and so on. So before we actually find the coordinates, if we know the graph, the parent graph of a parent function, then we can use it. So square root of x graph is this. So don't forget, the square root of x graph is what? This one. And then minus square root of x is this one. Okay. Okay, next example is to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, x-intercept, okay, very important definition. Finding the x-intercept is, x-intercept has always y value equal to 0. So in order to find x-intercept, okay, always set y equals 0. So we have an equation over here, and the y equals 0 means this y value will be 0. Then we can find the x. And the x in the y-intercept. In order to find the y-intercept, we will set what? X equals 0. Always find x equals 0. So x-intercept can be written as this. So we want to find the x value of the x-intercept. Then the y value is always 0, right? And then we want to find the y-intercept. Then make sure x is 0. Then you get the y value. So set the other variable equal to 0. Okay, then from this information, let's find the x-intercept first. Okay, this means we're going to set y value equal to 0. So 0 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3. So from this trinomial, we can find what? X-intercept. So how do you solve for x? Let's factor this trinomial. Factor the trinomial. So this will be x, and this will be minus 3x. The sum is negative 2x. All right, so this one is equal to 0 equals x plus 1, x minus 3. So since product is 0, we can set its factor equal to 0. So from here, x equals negative 1, or x minus 3 equals 0, then x equals 3. So these two are the x-intercept. So there are two x-intercepts. So one is when x equals negative 1, y is 0. And what? And when x equals 3, y is 0. So these two are the x-intercepts. Okay, x-intercept. Okay, let's find the y-intercept. Okay, to find the y-intercept, let's set x equals 0. Let's set x equal to 0. Set x equal to 0. Then 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3. Then y equals, isn't it? This is minus 3, right? Then 0 minus 0 minus 3 is negative 3. That's the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0, y is negative 3. So there's one y-intercept. This is the y-intercept. And there are two x-intercepts. These are two x-intercepts. Can you see how we find x-intercept and the y-intercept? So if we graph this one, okay, plot the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, so this is x-axis, y-axis. So y-intercept is when x equals 0, y is negative 3. This is the y-intercept. How about x-intercept? X is negative 1, y equals 0. Then when x equals 3, 1, 2, 3, this is y-intercept. And the vertex is always in the middle. So the vertex is always in the middle. Well, we will learn this one later. So the middle of these two x-intercepts are this one, right? So the graph looks like this. So the graph is something like this. Like this. Can you see it? Okay, then let's try next example. Okay, next example is about circle. Okay, circle. Okay, the equation of a circle is this. Okay, let's say this is the radius. This is center. Okay, the center is h and k. H and k. So the x coordinate of the center is h, and the y coordinate of the center is k, and the radius is the distance between the center to the graph, right? This one. Okay, let's say this is r. And let's say this point is x and y, x comma y. All right, then the equation is this. Okay, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That's the equation of a circle. Okay, something like this. Okay, let me rewrite it. Okay, here it is. Okay, x-axis, y-axis, and here's a circle. Here's circle, and the center is 0. Okay, let's say the center is 0. The circle is not quite right. Okay, center 0. Then the equation of the circle is this: x squared plus y squared equals what? R squared. Very simple, isn't it? So r means the radius. This is r. And then this point is what? X and y. So x squared plus y squared equals r squared. This is the equation. And then once we translate this circle, h units horizontally and k units vertically, then this will be the equation of circle. All right. So don't forget this equation. Okay, in this case, what's the center? In this case, the center is h and k. Okay, x minus h, y minus k. So the center is h and k, not negative h and negative k. H and k. All right, so don't forget this equation of circle. So from this one, okay, let's find the standard form of equation of circle. So let's try an example. Okay, in this example, we want to find a equation of a circle in standard form. Equation of standard form is the one. Standard form is what? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we want to write the equation like in this form, and then h and k are what? The center. So center is x coordinate is h and y is k, right? And radius is what? Radius is r. Okay. So we want to find the center and the radius. So how do we find the center? Okay, the center is the midpoint, isn't it? The center h and k are the midpoint of x and y. So how to find the midpoint? Okay, add up the x coordinate divided by the average of x values and the average of y values of the 2 points. So that equals 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the center is what? 2 and 1, right? That's the center. So this 2 will be h, and the k value will be 1, right? K will be 1. So we found h and k. And let's find the radius. Okay, radius is the half the diameter, right? Half the diameter. So the radius equals half the diameter. So the diameter is what? It's the distance between 2 points. So can we write it like this? So diameter is the distance between 2 points. So x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So that equals 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 squared plus negative 6 squared. Right? So 36. So this one is equal to 36 plus 36. That means 36 times 2, right? And 36 is equal to what? Square root of 36 times square root of 2. So 6 times square root of 2. So finally, the diameter is 3 square root of 2. So the radius is 3 square root of 2, right? Is our calculations correct? No, that is correct. So that is the radius. That's the radius. So what is r squared? So r squared equals 3 square root of 2 squared. So 9 times 2 is 18, right? So 18 is, so we found r squared is 18. So from the equation, so we can rewrite the equation. This one, right? So the equation is x minus h. H is 2 squared plus y minus 8. K is 1, so minus 1 squared. That equals r squared. R squared is equal to 18, right? So we can write an equation like this. So this is the standard form of the equation of a circle. All right, so it's not hard. What you have to do is find the center, and center is the midpoint of the two endpoints of the diameter. And the midpoint is the average of x coordinates and average of the y coordinates, right? So we find h and k, the center, and then find the distance between 2 points. Then the radius will be half the distance. And then from there, find out r squared. Okay, next is the last example. Okay, find the center and the radius of a circle by completing the square method. Okay, that means, okay, what do you mean by completing the square method? Do you remember? Okay, we need x squared and x terms. For example, let's say we have x plus 3x. Then what should be here so that this will be a perfect square? What we do is divide the coefficient of x by 2 and square it. So this goes over here. So this will look like x plus 3 over 2 squared, right? Okay, so that is how we can find this constant to make it a perfect square. That's we call it completing the square. So from here, let's collect x squared and x term together. So x squared, here's x squared minus 6x. And then I'm going to put a space a little bit. So I'm going to add something. I'm going to add something over here to make it a perfect square. Also the y squared. So put y squared and the y term together so that we can add something to this to make a perfect square. Right? And then move minus 3 to the other side because we don't need negative 3 on the left. What we need is x squared and x term, y squared and y term. So constant term should be moved to the right. And then next, let's find the constant. Okay, the constant is what? Divide this number by 2 squared. So that is negative 3 squared, right? So negative 3 squared goes this blank. So since we added 9, negative 3 squared is 9, right? So since we added the left side of the equation, 9, we need to add same number to the right. Okay, 9, this is 9, okay, 9. All right, how about the y? Okay, divide 4 by 2 squared. That is 2 squares. So this one goes over here, 2 squares. So since we added 4 to the left side of the equation, we add the same number to the right side of the equation. Then the first 3 equations makes a perfect square, x minus 3 squared. And the last 3 equations makes y plus 2 squared, and that is equal to, okay, 3 plus 9 is 12, 12 plus 4 is 16. All right, then 16 equals what? Okay, let's rewrite it as squared, r squared. So 16 is 4 squared. So as you see this, what is the center? Okay, h, this is h value, this is the k value, and 4 is the r value, right, r. So the center is 3 and negative 2. 3 and negative 2. Okay, rewrite it. So, okay, let me make a little change of this one. Let's change this. We want to make it y minus, right? Y minus. So, plus 2 will be negative times negative 2, right? So, negative 2 is the k value and 3 is the h value. Can you see it? So the center is 3 and negative 2. How about the radius? The radius is 4, right? 4, r squared. Okay. So since the center is 3 and negative 2, we are moving a circle with the radius 4, 3 units to the right and 2 units down. Okay, so if we graph it, it looks like this. If we graph it, so the radius 4 and then the center is 1, 2, 3 and negative 2. So move 3 units down, 2 units down, 3 to the right, 2 down. The radius is 4. So probably, some kind of like this. Circle, right? Circle like this. Okay, so we are done for this sample, this section. So please do the homework.